Okay.
You can go.
Alright. So, on the count of three?
What?
On the count of three?
Yes. 1, 2, 3.
Hey Austin, this is Joshua. And I thought I would try to make a video as a way of explaining to you my past, and I thought it would be easier to talk about basically how I met your mother and how I found out about your birth. So I know this might be kind of funny, or seems kind of funny to do it this way, but I thought, for me, I've said this story several times, and I've had a hard time writing it down, and I thought this would be a better way for me to tell my story. And I think you don't have to watch this whole thing all at once. This is something you can watch in increments. And I have a friend who offered to help me film, and this is something that I thought about, I don't know, about a month ago. And I thought this would be the format that I think would be easiest for me. I've sat down several times trying to write and tell the story, and it's just been a little hard to get out. So, and who knows, having this video could last for a while. I don't know when you'll get it or when you'll watch it. And so I think I'll just go ahead and start. I'm not working off any script, and I've told this story dozens of times, so I think it's going to be easy for me to just say it. So here it goes. So let me see where to start. I'll talk about first about just in high school in general. Erica and we dated each other off and on in high school, and I think it was, well, there was a time where we weren't dating, and then I think at some point I moved out of my parents' house, and I was staying with the Smiths, Robin Smith, Philip, and I was staying on their property, and Erica and and all of our friends had just graduated, and we were all going off to college somewhere. And I think Erica and I went on some sort of date, and things happened, and we both went our separate ways. And she moved down to Austin, Texas, and I moved away to Eugene, Oregon. And excuse me, I'm having a little cold, so my voice is kind of hoarse. And so anyhow, after not seeing Erica, or after seeing her and then not seeing her, like we both went our separate ways, and she moved down to Texas, and and I began my first year in college in Eugene, Oregon, at the Lane Community College, and so it was springtime. April. It was the beginning of April when I got a phone call from Chris Thompson and Philip Smith saying that Erica had a child, and they were saying that she was saying it was mine, and and I was like, they called me up, and I was just really taken aback and surprised by what they were saying, and then they said, well, April Fools, and they said that Erica did have a child, but she wasn't saying whose child it was, and I still was in shock because it was hard to believe that she had a child and didn't tell anybody. So I just want to pause for a moment and just say that I'm just going to go dive right into like the story of how I found out, and I think there are a lot of other stories to be told about myself and about the present and about how I came to talk to Erica and you after many years, but I think I just want to tell the story from my point of view, and I think I could talk about also as well as like my uncertainty of what other people have told you, and I think it would be great to just at least say my side of the story, to be able to explain how I heard, and to my knowledge what I believe is the case. Maybe I'm getting some of the details wrong, but I'm going to try and tell it to you as close as possible to what I understand to be the truth, and so because I have no idea if there are rumors going around that are going to contradict what I say. So let me think again here. So sorry, that was a sort of little distraction, but I felt like I needed to say that to continue the story. So after Chris and Phil had pranked me with their April Fool's joke, I got in contact with Amy Smith, and she confirmed it that you were born, and that Erica had just had a child, and that nobody knew whose child it was, and we were all in disbelief. Everyone was in shock by this news, and I was having a hard time with it because I was able to do the math. It was April. You were born on the 27th, and so I was able to do the math, and it seemed likely that it, or there was a possibility that you could be my child, and that was really hard for me because for me personally, I was at that time dealing with my own struggle with not knowing who my father was, and to have that happen again, I wouldn't, to somebody else, was something that, would have been really hard for me to live with. And so, I was really curious if you were my son or you were my child, but I hadn't heard anything. And so my understanding is that Erica kept the child, or kept you secret until the night of her birth, and that was when she was able to tell her mom, Lynette, that she was having the child, and then they went and had the child and had you, Austin. Sorry, it's hard to speak in second and third person sometimes, so you have to excuse me, because it's like trying to talk to this camera and tell the story to you, and even though it's about you, it's interesting how this is happening. So, I was definitely struggling with the thought of the possibility of you being my son, and I determined that I would find a time away from school to drive back from Eugene and to go visit Erica and you and the family, Lynette, and just confront Erica and ask her about the whole situation. And so that was, I'm not sure, but it must have been like not long after your birth. It was probably like in April, so I drove back, and I was able to see you as a newborn baby, and Erica and I, we were able to drive out to Oceanside, and we went to dinner at Rosanna's, and she and I had dinner together, and I was able to ask Erica about you. I asked her if you were my son, and she said no. And I was really confused at the time, because I didn't understand why she would not tell me, and then not tell anybody whose child it was. But I felt like it was her right, to not be able to say, and it wasn't. I felt like it wasn't my business to try to pry that information from her. And I just instinctively thought, well, why would she lie? I didn't know what the reason would be. And perhaps, it was, there could have been lots of reasons. Fear, and it's not that I really want to speak ill of Erica at all. I think because we were both so young, I think there was could have been a lot of fear, confusion of how to even handle this, embarrassment. And so um, we parted ways. I was honestly relieved to hear that. I wasn't ready to be a father yet, and Erica and I weren't really ready to be a couple or ready to build a life together. So I went back to school, and I never really heard from Erica again. I finished school, or sort of finished school, that spring. After all that news, I started to go to some concerts. I was following the Grateful Dead for some time, and I got to a car wreck and was thrown from the vehicle while I was asleep, and I missed my finals, and thankfully I wasn't hurt in any serious way, but it definitely rattled me, and I was able to leave. Well, I ended up missing my finals, and my lease ran out, and so my whole world was kind of shaken up. So, excuse me. Oh God. And so I went back to school. Well, no, sorry, scratch that. I missed my finals, and I went back to Tillamook for some time after some traveling, and I didn't hear from anybody, from your family, from Erica, and I went on with my life, and I ended up needing to move out of my house, and I really had no place to go, and I wasn't in. My family and I weren't on good terms, and so at that point I felt like there was an existential moment for me to want to explore other alternative lifestyles. At the time, I was my studies in college, studying philosophy and religion, and going to different Grateful Dead shows. That I became interested in finding different experiences and gaining knowledge, I guess you could say, or an education that wasn't traditional. I felt like what I was learning in college wasn't feeding me the way I wanted to be fed, and so I felt like I needed to see the world and find people that could teach me things that I was more interested in. And so I ended up traveling across the country with Chris Thompson, and we started going to these different festivals, these things called the Rainbow Gatherings, and yeah, it was a really strange time. It was the 90s, and the world was a very different place. I mean, the internet was barely even off the ground, and email was something that was just beginning to start, and so I began my own spiritual quest, I guess you could say. I started dabbling in different belief systems and ideas, and anyhow, like that's a whole nother story that I think I should talk about in a different time. But I just sort of I think I'm just wanted to get into that just a little bit to lead up to some things that some changes that had occurred that and why I ended up leaving Tillamook for good for a very long time. So let's see, what happened was I ended up in Florida with Chris in 1995, and we were just wanting to travel the country and play music and see the world. And it was at that time I heard that Jerry Garcia died, and so with the car wreck that had happened and the truck that was totaled and that causing my whole entire summer plans to be squashed, and Jerry Garcia dying, and hence meaning that there would be no more shows, definitely affected my desire, my interest in what I wanted to be doing with my time. And I ended up going back to Oregon and seeing my folks, and realizing that I didn't want to live in Tillamook anymore. And I began living with Philip Smith and Robin again on their property, and working that fall of 1995, and realizing that if I wanted to have a future, that I needed to get away from Tillamook and find my path, and so I ended up back in Eugene, and as soon as I got back there, started meeting friends again who were just involved in a lot of I would say there was a lot of drug dealing going on in Eugene, and just was a scene that I started to really not want to be a part of. And my friends that are people that I knew were supporting themselves that way, and I just started to see that wasn't the path, that wasn't fulfilling for me, and I started looking for some other things. I started going to yoga classes, and it was right around January, February of 1996, when I met some folks who were professing faith in Christ and was living this nomadic lifestyle that really appealed to me more than some of the other philosophical and religious teachings, and it was then when I started to reading the New Testament, and I got kind of inspired to just completely drop out of the system and travel with them. I had friends who were doing activist work at the time, and I felt like I wanted to do something radical, but also nonviolent and very nonconformist and nomadic. I think just the conventional lifestyle of going to college and finding this career path just wasn't appealing to me, and I felt like I needed to get away from some of my friends and my family. I really wanted to just change my life, and and so I at that point I was feeling the need to get away, and I called my mom and told her that I just wanted to follow this path, and she didn't want to hear anything about it. She didn't want to hear about my faith, or like Jesus, or um, um, my desire to live this lifestyle. And she hung up on me, and so at that point it just felt like it was really easy for me to sort of like wipe my hands of the whole thing and be like, I'm out of here. And and I think there are just so many different factors in my past that had led up to this moment of me wanting to just make this huge decision to just take off and leave. And so I did, and I didn't talk to my family for about 7 years, which, it made it, if Erica wanted to reach out to me after that, it became really hard for her, I'm sure. I mean, because nobody knew where I was. So, so it's very understandable in that sense. Like, why, like she ended up not saying anything to anybody at that point, because I pretty much fell off the map, and nobody knew where I was. And it was about, so that was in 1996, so it was 2004, and when I first established contact with my folks again, they had found out from somebody else where I was. I was living in Tennessee at the time, and I started writing letters, and it was just, at that point I wasn't, I felt like I was living a whole different lifestyle, and there's a lot more to say about that again, and why I felt it important to stay with the group, and why I ended up leaving, but at the time when I was talking to my folks, we were almost just in two different worlds, two different wavelengths. I was really not interested in spending that much time or seeing my family, and so we had some correspondence for some time, and then I ended up ending my correspondence, and it wasn't until till 6 years later, I guess, in 2011, when I finally made the move to leave the community I was traveling with. And it was then when I got in contact with Amy Smith and Amy Cessna at this point, and she had gotten married, and she was able to tell me about you, and she said that it was basically like 15 years, and she had said that it was a really strange moment, because it was September of 2011, and she didn't know if the stars were lining up or what, but that Erica had just admitted to you that I was your father over Labor Day weekend, and it was so strange for her to have found that out, and that for you to have found out, and that all of a sudden I popped back up on the screen after being missing for so long, and she not knowing where I was, if I was alive or dead, and so she and I began to have phone calls to catch up and to find out about each other, and how she had become your godmother, and also a mother of 2 beautiful children, and living in a happy family, and through her I was able to seek a mediator to ask if she could reach out to Erica so that she and I could talk, and perhaps if the moment was right I could talk to you. And it took some time because I think, Erica had a lot of feelings about it, and I think understandably so. And I think it was, for me too, it was a really, this has all been a very hard time. Or it was not it was like hard or challenging. Because right now it's like I'm trying to do 2 things at once. I'm trying to reach out to you and establish some sort of connection, and also I've been putting some energy and thought in research into trying to find who and where my father is before it's too late. And I think it's important that I'm doing this now because I have no idea what the future brings, and so at least making this video, tell you my story, at least will allow you to get to know me somewhat, even if we never meet. At least there's this moment that I'm creating here for you, and for myself. I want to get this off my chest, and so I feel like I can relate to not knowing your father and him not being there for you, and missing every moment, every important high and every low that in your existence. And I can understand all these different emotions that one would feel, and in you particularly, like I'm sure my story and your stories are different in some ways, but there are definitely some big similarities that I feel like I can share some empathy for you. So and so I ended up seeing Joni outside the high school, and I didn't even want to get out of the car, but I got out to give her a hug, and just by luck, I think, or just a very interesting coincidence, that the only 2 people to walk out of the high school were you and your friend at that moment, when we were only there for probably like 20 minutes. But I think that maybe it was necessary to break the ice in some ways. So I was able to arrange a meeting with Erica, and we went out to the beach, and we were able to talk to one another, and just catch up. I wanted to hear her side of the story and what she had to say, and at that point, it wasn't necessary for me to be upset at her. Like, if I wanted to establish a connection with you, that being upset and angry at her was not something that I wanted to feel. I just thought that would just alienate the situation, or alienate you and her more. Or if I alienated her, I think that could really upset and ruin the possibility of having any sort of avenue towards a relationship or developing a relationship with you. And I was able to find out that she didn't want to tell anybody until she was able to talk to me in person. So even if she wanted to, tell other people. Um, she did have a difficult time knowing where I was, and she didn't want anything to. Um, she didn't want anything to any negative consequences um, like of people harassing me or badgering me about you without she telling me first about you. And anyhow, like it was a difficult time, like, cause like I realized that I had missed out on your entire past, and she realized that she denied me of that opportunity, and so like all of us together were trying to come to terms with it, and on top of that there's this whole public spectacle in that town, which for you, I mean, I can't imagine what it must have been like your junior and senior year for this whole thing to blow up in in your school, because the rumors going around, and anyhow, I mean the town itself is very small, and all this was kind of crazy because it's like not only was I finding out about you, but like I've been gone for so long, over 15 years, and not even knowing my own family, not even seeing them for so long, and my brother and sister, and hearing about their all the troubles and the things that they had gone through, was all kind of shocking to my system and to like the environment of Tillamook, I'm sure, because I'm sure there were people who were still haters of me and my family, and my family definitely, my understanding is doesn't have a very good reputation, and so so I began establishing a connection with my family again, and that was hard because I was also learning to be learning to get acquainted with them, and living in New York City, and that I think just living in New York and the culture that's here is very different than the town, the small town of 3,000 people, 3 to 4,000 people, and so that was very different to even just go back to Tillamook and just see the changes and see the things that had stayed the same, and so I saw my brother, who had his own history, which was also troublesome to see, that he had a past that he had struggled with, but at the time that I saw him, he was doing a lot better, and there was a moment where he took me out for a drink in Neatarts. I forget the name of the bar, but it's the Oyster Bar, the Schooner, I think it was, and it was a very interesting moment because here I was trying to connect with him and find a way for us to, as men, as grown-up men, we were both in our 30s at that point, to get to know each other and to somewhat find a way to connect. And so we were having a beer or two together, and it was an interesting moment because Jamie walks in, and he and I started talking, and I think he was also rattled by this whole scenario of Erica not telling him, and trying to relate to this whole thing as best as he could, and having a really like having this deep relationship with you, and raising you as one of his sons, and then come to find out me, your father, biological father, but never around, and he not knowing that I existed, like, I think it was all very troubling and puzzling to him as well. I mean, I can't put words in his mouth, but I mean, this whole this scenario was quite awkward, for all of us. And so he was wondering why I wasn't upset at Erica, and like, why, questioning me of why wasn't I upset at her, like, after all, like, she didn't tell me that you're my son, and I was trying to explain to him that, it was, at that point, it was futile. It was, I was beyond upset. It was no, like, at this point, I mean, even just as a person, like, I just don't know if that's how I could actually react. I mean, there's definitely some anger there, or there could be, but my reaction, I guess, was definitely more of about, compassion. I mean, just coming from my own past and knowing what I've gone through, that that's definitely not, if I was in your shoes, that's not what I'd want to feel from my, some sort of anger from my father, so, or my father, feeling anger from my father towards my own mother, so, I was trying to explain to Jamie that my interest was really about connecting with you, with Austin, with Erica, and finding a way to develop some sort of relationship, like, where, maybe it's not me having any kind of authority or, parental position, but at least getting to know you was something that meant a lot and would mean a lot to me now. And there was some point where it was really odd, but my brother Toby thought that Jamie was looking at me the wrong way and being aggressive, and so Toby, I think, felt threatened by Jamie talking to me in the way he was, and that, Toby being somebody who I guess felt the need to I don't know, protect me from belligerence in a way, like, seeing how Toby and I were trying to bond and make a connection, and then somebody else was trying to disrupt that, so he wanted to stick up for me, and got into Jamie's face and was like, you got a problem with my brother? No one talked to my brother this way, and Jamie wasn't going to back down. There was about to be a fight in the bar over me, which was just really absurd, because like that was just not the scene that I was trying to create. I wasn't trying to create like division. I was trying to create unity and even connect with Jamie in a way where, I had so much respect for Jamie because he had given you a fatherly figure that I wasn't able to give, and teach you many things that I wasn't able to provide. And the bartender had jumped up on the counter and tried to break up or calm things down and defuse the whole situation and kick people out. And so I went outside with Jamie. I had to mediate as well, and had to tell my brother to chill out, and I went out with Jamie for a bit and be like, yo, this is not what I'm trying to do. This is really my side of the story. And so Jamie and I, we tried to connect, and I tried to tell him what had happened, where I was coming from. And so that was that. And so I left Tillamook. I went back to New York. and it was later that year, in August, that I planned a longer trip in 2002 or 12 to go back to Tillamook. And at that time I went with my girlfriend at the time, Amy, who she and I wanted to take a vacation, and so it was then where I was able to go back to Tillamook, and see friends again, see my family again, see Robin and Amy again. And between the time that I had visited in February until August, Chris Thompson had died, who was, I don't know if you know him, but he was just a close friend of mine in high school. And but I was able to see Tatum, and it was an interesting moment because Tatum was also one of my best friends in high school, and I was able to find out as well that he also saw you with Jamie, and had mentioned something about you looking just like me, Tatum's best friend in high school. And it sounded like, from the story I heard, that from Jamie, that that was one of the things that had set you off into your curiosity of if I was really your father or not, and which led you to confront Erica about me. And perhaps these are all bits and pieces of the story that of you that I've heard, and so I was able to connect with Tatum and see him, and so I guess this is where I'm getting close to where maybe this story might end, because you know your side now of the story of how you and I met at the football game. When I was there in August, I definitely was wanting to see you, and I know you were busy with work and football practice and your life in general, and I think it was really hard for you to still be ready to see me. I mean, I can't imagine the explosion of rumors that had happened, and the drama that may have put that may this all may have caused you. And so for me to even show up and to see the football game, and there was that whole scenario where Keith and Jamie went to the end zone after your team had huddled after the game and brought you off the field. That was a very intense moment because I don't know if you remember, but as soon as you were walking off the stage or off the field to meet me for the very first time, like that in itself being super intense for me. I don't know if it was for you, but like it was a very interesting moment. It's like as you're walking up to me off the field, Chris Thompson's son, Charlie, approaches me and was like, "Hey, are you Josh Latour? My dad had said so much about you and had told me so many stories, and I heard you're here, and I just really want to meet. I really wanted to meet you and talk to you." And so there's like this really strange moment where, Chris had died that year and left Charlie behind, and here Charlie was, who felt connect to me through his father in a way that because we had shared so many stories, he wanted to meet me for the first time, and then here you were also walking off the field and coming to meet me for the first time. So I greeted Charlie for a moment and had to put him on pause, and just to let him know that I was about to meet you, and that I really wanted to talk to him, but I also felt like I needed to like give you the attention that you deserved in this first meeting. And so then we were able to meet, and we were able to go out to pizza, and I felt like that whole communal experience was probably, best in some ways. At least we were able to like be together, even though like we didn't really have the opportunity to have much one-on-one private time. Like at least we're able to experience each other for the first time. And I did really desire to meet you and have that one-on-one, but like perhaps that was just me being too forward and too rushed and too pushy to arrange that. I think it's important for us to find a way where we feel ready and safe and desirous to want to build a relationship and get to know one another, and so that was I don't know, I guess that was I wanted more, but like at least having that experience was a start in my eyes. And so after that, I left. I had no idea what to do after that. I felt like texting you just was not the right format for me and for us. I felt it was. I think there are times where I think I may have been coming on too strong to you, or just saying things that maybe you weren't ready to hear, or not even appropriate. I don't remember, but so since then, like, I was trying to brainstorm and get some advice. I've looked up different forums for people who've never met their son, and I mean, there's really not that much support out there. I think there's some, but I felt really challenged by um, knowing what to do in this situation, because I mean, just coming from my background and not and wanting to support you in a way, and I'm not sure what you're wanting from me, and feeling a bit clumsy about it. But, sending cards when I'm not sure if you wanted, to receive anything from me, cards or. I think I sent you a CD, music of something I liked, which was also, it just, it was difficult to know how to approach you and not feel like I was fumbling. And anyhow, I thought maybe emails and creating a way for us to be pen pals was a method for us to get to know each other, and but then the emails not receiving any response seemed discouraging, because I wasn't sure if they were landing with you or was something that you wanted, and it's interesting because I've been able to meet other people who've had their fathers reach out to them, and they tell me their story and how they felt towards their father or their mother or their parent, after not knowing them or not seeing them for so many years, and the mixed feelings that they have had, and I've definitely received encouragement to keep trying, and I feel like this story is one that I've wanted to write and tell you for a long time, and I feel like trying to write it may have been too much for you, and I've had a hard time, like, actually sitting down and trying to sit down and write it, like, it's felt like a lot for me as well, and perhaps it's part of me is just being lazy. I don't know, maybe writing it could be better. I feel like this video is a bit, not a very good presentation in the terms of me stumbling in some ways over words or trying to describe this whole thing, but anyhow, I thought this might be also more personable in some ways because you can see me and hear my voice and see the tone in the way I've been saying things. I mean, I think writing sometimes doesn't allow you to express yourself in the way that can be understood the way you want it to be, so there's that. And I feel like there's a lot more to talk about, of course. And I don't know, I think this is at least a good start, a good chunk of me getting my story out. I have no idea what kind of rumors are being spread about me now in Tillamook, and and if what I'm saying is actually contradicting what you've been told, I have no idea you know, what's been told to you at this point. Um, and it's definitely not like I'm trying to um, create some sort of um, like battle with your mom or Jamie or anything. If like um, they think I'm trying to say that she's a liar or something like that, like um, all that to me is like old news, you know, like um, it's nothing that I'm, you know, it's like I'm so far beyond that now. It's like I'm, you know, it's like whether she lied or not to me is like a moot point, because you know, it's like we're here now, where it's present. Like you're alive, I'm alive. Uh, you're a grown man, I'm a grown man. Like um, you can make your own decisions, and I feel like um, at this point, what matters more to me is how to move forward, and um, if there are things that you know, like we can learn from each other. I feel like there's a lot of things that I would enjoy learning from you, hearing, you know, hearing about yourself. And I also feel like my experiences, or just perhaps there's things about me that you might appreciate. Um, and anyhow, um, life's been going pretty well here in New York City. And I think I'm going to sign out for now. And I hope that this video here has been helpful to you. And I really, honestly, truly look forward to us discussing and getting to know one another. If it could ever happen, it's something I really desire, and I feel like I should just keep trying, and then eventually, when you're ready, when the timing's right, uh, hopefully you and I can make some sort of connection. And you know, I truly apologize to you for these hard feelings that you may have had. I mean, or these ambiguous feelings, these feelings that of you not knowing what to feel and what to think. You know, like, you know, I apologize for not being around. You know, like, I know I needed. There was definitely a need for me to get away from Tillamook and my family, and to go through certain changes, and to become, you know, like the kind of person that I wanted to be. But I definitely didn't want to live a life that you know, was intentionally like harmful or disruptive to you. And so yeah, so like, I don't know. There's a lot of um, um, feelings that I think, and directions that I think we can go here, but I really not just want to apologize, but just wanted to be able to find a way to I don't know if make it up to you is the right phrase, because it's just like it's like a very strange turn of events that has brought us to this point, and so I feel like maybe there's something I can do to make things right, and that's really, I feel like that's really what matters to me is as I'm reaching out to you, to be able to tell the story and make a path and make a way for us to see eye to eye, and hopefully I hope that this story helps you in some ways, and sort of like breaks down some of the myths, so that you can actually really get to know me and my side of the story, and that it would help your future in some way. I have no idea what the impacts of all this will have, but I'm glad to be able to actually say it, and to be able to have this moment to be able to make this video for you and then send it off and just see what happens.